Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune will sign with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Declaration, concluding the state visit to the Russian Federation. This visit is of great significance for the two nations who are working to formalize, deepen, and elevate their strategic relations. President Tebboune's trip to Moscow embodies an opportunity to advance Algeria's inclusion in the BRICS bloc of emerging markets, as Russia is one of the founding members of the organization and has already stated its support for Algeria's membership repeatedly. This is All 24 News special coverage. Hello there and welcome to the program. Let's bring in our guest first. Here with me in studio we have Mr. Shuaib Boutamin, economy expert at Ranadel CEO, and via Skype is Mr. Abdenour Toumi, a Maghreb studies expert researcher at Orsam, Turkey from France, along with Mr. Hamoud Salhi, Associate Dean, Professor of International Education at California University from Los Angeles. And in Washington is Mr. Edmund Garib, Professor of International Relations at Georgetown University. Thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to be with us. Let me start with you, Mr. Edmund. Just to begin this special coverage, what can you tell us about the visit of Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune to the Russian Federation? Does it reflect the dynamism that the relations between the two countries have known in recent years? How can we read the visit, whether in terms of timing or the declared goals of the visit, either by Russia or Moscow? Can you hear me, Mr. Edmund?
Greetings to you and to your honored guests. I can
Great.
hear you, yes. Can
Great.
you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Clearly, this is a very historic visit, and to a large extent, it's going to consecrate the historic relationship, the strong relationship between Algeria and Russia. That relationship, of course, preceded the establishment of the Russian Federation, but it was the Soviet Union at that time where the Soviet Union, the Russian people and other peoples of the Soviet Union played a major role in helping Algeria at a time when it needed it. It was one of the supporters of the Algerian Revolution. They also provided a great deal of assistance at that time. And I think that role and the relationship that existed over the decades has strengthened that relationship. Yes, it's mostly has been historically a political and also a military relationship. Yes, there is a commercial relationship, a trade relationship. Algeria is probably the third African country, the third largest African country that has commercial ties with Russia. It also has a very strong military relationship, also half of the military equipment probably for the Algerian army is Russian produced. So there is that. But I think what's happening now is that this is a very important attempt to develop a new kind of relationship, to broaden that historic relationship and to move beyond also the traditional relationship which focused only on certain areas, to new areas that have to deal with technological issues, with agriculture, with economic investment, with industry, in order to strengthen ties between the two countries. Algeria is planning on developing and creating a new economic environment through the coming years, and they need to cooperate with other countries for help, as well as at the same time that there is a message that the Algerians wanted to send, that Algeria is a country that plays a major role. It's a very important regional country in Africa and the Arab world, and that it's important for Russia and also for the Eurasian Union as well, and for the BRICS countries to have Algeria become a member. Russia and Algeria have other also special relationship and special interests And this is one they are both producers of energy, whether it's oil or gas, and it's important for them to stabilize the prices, and at the same time that would work in the interest of both the producers as well as the consumers. And so this is an attempt to build a new relationship in this strategic partnership that is going to be signed tomorrow, as far as I understand, between the two presidents of Russia and Algeria, and that is going to raise that historic relationship to a new level. And this is something that both leaders of Russia and of Algeria have emphasized that they are very much interested in. They want to promote, they want to be able to have investments on both sides. They were hoping that maybe Russian banks would also open in Algeria. At the same time, both countries could cooperate and use their national currencies in their trade, and that also would give them strength, their independence, and their ability at a time when the world is putting, for example, Russia is facing a lot of pressure from the West, and so that is also a country that needs friends and that would cooperate, would work with it. And at the same time, I think this would work in the interests of both peoples, and that's where the significance, I believe, of this trip lies.
Very nice indeed. And Dr. Hamoud Salhi, today the President, Tebboune and Putin will sign the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Declaration at the Kremlin headquarters. Just in light of what Mr. Edmund Grieb just said, what is the importance of this declaration and how will it serve the relations between the two countries according to you?
And thank you, Dr. Edmund Grieb made really a strong case for why this is important. I think it has the strategic partnership is very, very important, particularly with two things happening. Now you have a new international order that will be emerge, certainly in post-Ukraine conflict. You also have Algeria as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. And then you have the bilateral relationships between Russia, Algeria, and the whole African continent. What the Algerians leadership is trying to convey, and you could sense this and hear this from the president's speech, in which he talked a lot about the need to expand trade, move it beyond the $3 billion that we have currently, to explore what Dr. Edmund Grieb talked about, a strategic partnership in technology, agriculture, pharmaceutical product, and things like that. And that would benefit Algeria. The other context that we need to put it is that Africa presents itself as a huge continent for potential investment. And Algeria, when you refer to President Tebboune's speech, he talked about the new investment environment that Algeria has, new laws. He called on businesses to form their own bank, noting that while Algeria has more than 85% of private businesses, most of them are financed by the public money, and he wants this business to come together. And Russia businesses and Algerian could lead to that. He also talked about the bureaucratic challenge that Algeria faces. All in all, to suggest that Algeria is ready to be to establish this strong foundation with a relationship with Africa to begin in Algeria, and he talked extensively about those issues. And then on the context in foreign policy, particularly with the new world order that may emerge out of this crisis today, and also Algeria as a non-permanent member, there we could see the need for both countries to coalesce and work on a partnership. Algeria, through the co-chairship that the Security Council allows, where members of that Big Five could team up with a non-permanent member to form alliance and to push for certain issues, is well placed to play an important role in the Security Council by aligning itself with key members in the Council. As we know, remember Algeria's initiative to bring the Russian and Ukrainian problem into certain kind of agreement was very welcomed initially, and the Europeans thought this is a good solution. So it's significant at many levels, and I think also the Algerian president and the Russian president seems to underscore the fact that we are more than just this is just more than strategic military partnership. It is about a comprehensive relationship.
Very nice indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Let me include Dr. Abdel Toumi into this debate. President Tebboune affirmed during his meeting with the Russian Prime Minister that the bilateral relations between the two countries are historical and extend over 60 years, and they are continuous and will not change, regardless of the international circumstances. How do we read this statement, Dr. Abdel Toumi? What does the Algerian president mean behind this statement?
It is indeed a strong and also a sincere message from President Tebboune toward his counterpart, Russian President Vladimir Putin. But also, this visit is special, and it came in a time of, let's say, world affairs turbulence. So alliances in a shift of global order, and like Professor Salhi mentioned, that will be heading into a new world order in the aftermath of the ceasefire, or eventually some negotiation that will lead to a ceasefire in the ongoing war in Ukraine. So in this context, these elements are very important for Algeria. Also, Algeria has already established a new foreign policy doctrine that is based on pragmatism and activism in its diplomacy, which is now is led in by President Tebboune, and that was instigated or established by former Foreign Affairs Minister Mr. Lamamra, and sure the new Foreign Affairs Minister Mr. Attaf will lead or will continue on that trajectory that will put Algeria in a posture of to position itself in regionally and also in world affairs at large. So the bilateral relations are classic. I mean, when it comes to military cooperation, economic cooperation, like it was stated by Dr. Gharib and the professor.
Great. And speaking of Dr. Gharib, let me just bring Dr. Gharib back here. For his part, the Russian president's special representative to the Middle East and Africa, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, described President Tebboune's visit to Russia as a historic event in the relations between the two countries and stressed that it will be successful and contribute to the development of friendly relations between the two countries. How can we read Bogdanov's statement here, Dr. Gharib? Can you hear me, Dr. Gharib? It seems that Dr. Gharib is not with us for the moment. So let me redirect this question to you, Mr. Shuaib Boutamin. How do you see this visit as a whole? If we talk about this historic relation between Russia and Algeria, what prospects are we expecting, let's say, from this visit?
Okay, good morning, Karim. Good morning, Mr. Hamoud Salhi, Abdel Noor, and Mr. Edmond Gharib. First of all, I would like to say that this visit comes in a very critical time. Time where the Occident is imposing many sets of sanctions on Russia. So Russia at the moment, I think, needs more gates, more doors, and it's looking to tighten its relationship with, or to deepen its relationship with another partners or existing partners, but it needs to deepen that relationship with them. I think one of the strategic countries, I believe, Russia needs at the moment is Algeria. Algeria at the moment is a leading country in the North Africa. It's just a while from Europe. And both Algeria and Russia share the same vision, strategic vision in kind of energy supplies. Both Algeria and Russia produce and export fossil energies. So both of them are members of the OPEC Plus, and they are active members of the OPEC Plus. I think that the declaration of the Russian responsible, I think it's in time. And as he said, it will be a successful visit. I think it's already a good relationship between Algeria and Russia. But what we need, I think, at the moment, we need to deepen this relationship because, as Mr. Salhi said, the trade balance exchange between Algeria and Russia is just more $3 billion. And most of it's a military purchase, I believe. But if we go to the economical side, I think it's not really big numbers. And we need to develop the economic ties with Russia. Russia, many people, a lot may think that Russia is a famous country in the military side. But Russia has the artificial intelligence, it has space discoveries, space science and technology and agriculture. So Russia is a strong country in Europe, in the world, and we need to tighten this relationship and
develop it further. Exactly, yes, I will get back to you here, Mr. Shuaib Botameen. Let me just bring back Dr. Gharib Edmond and ask you this question. If here we're talking about balances in the world, what is the importance of balances that Algeria establishes in managing its relations with its various partners? How does this trend of, let's say, adherence to the principle of non-alignment serve the desired balances in light of the sharp polarization witnessed by the world to attempt to redraw, let's say, global power balances here?
Well, clearly what Algeria is trying to do is to create a balanced relationship. Yes, they have a historic tie with Russia, and that tie is going to be developed now through this strategic partnership where we're likely to see more investments. It's going to make it easier. There will be new rules and regulations that will allow, and this has been a demand from the two sides, to strengthen their economic cooperation to make it easier, and in various areas, whether it is in the infrastructure, agriculture, medicine, and many other areas, while at the same time using their national currencies. So that is an important development. But at the same time, that does not mean that Algeria, as far as I know, I think that Algeria is very much interested in also establishing relationships with other countries in the world, whether it's in Europe, whether it's the United States, Latin America, and of course in Africa and the Arab world and beyond. And these are relationships that basically serve both sides, whereby also that relationship will not be a relationship where one country follows another country or accepts the hegemonic leadership of that other country, but where both sides respect each other, they respect each other's sovereignty, independence, and they are willing to work and cooperate on the basis of equality and in what serves the interests of both countries. And that is, I think, what's the purpose and what's the policy of Algeria right now. And that itself actually fills in with the line that used to be adopted previously with a number of countries in the world when there was a strong non-aligned movement during the time of the Soviet Union and the NATO countries, the United States, where there was competition between these countries as well as conflict often. Yet these countries, including the non-aligned countries, tried to pursue a policy, a balanced policy between these two blocs that serves their interests and help bring about peace and stability as well as development to their countries and to other countries in the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edmond Gharib. You were live with us from Washington. I give back to you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. To what extent can the strategic relations and coordination between Algeria and Russia contribute to supporting solutions to the crisis in the region, for instance?
A lot, because you really have, regardless of how you put it, two credible states who have the ability to play an instrumental role in bringing countries that are in crises. Algeria, as we have seen all these years, has been instrumental in helping bring a solution to the Libyan crisis, where Russia plays a role in that case. We have, in the case of what's happening in Sudan today, certainly the Algerian position and an alliance or a coalition with the Russians could be beneficial. Now, there are challenges for the Russian, particularly with the current conflicts in Ukraine. But we need to stay away or to think of this alliance outside the orbit of what the American strategists, policymakers are thinking, who do not want this relationship to grow or to develop, despite the fact that the Algerian and Russians are making it clear that this is about strategic, non-armament deals. The European country, the Americans are looking at it from a perspective that would be against their national interests. None of these countries are doing that. So if we move away from that U.S. influence or the idea of pessimism that nothing will happen from this, the two countries an alliance of the two countries will be very useful and could lead to serious resolution of the conflict in Africa, particularly with the idea where the Algerian agreement is moving towards looking at potential growth in areas of technology, agriculture. This is particularly in technology area. This is the area where Algeria wants to develop its economic infrastructure. President Tebboune talked about startup and how it's grown in the United States. It's leading in Africa. All this brings another dimension to the economic strength or the economic potential of this alliance to come. So in a sense, an economic relationship, a strong economic relationship between these two parties will translate into an influential position in resolutions of the conflict in Africa. And again, I am going to refer again to the role that Algeria will play in the Security Council. In the past, when you look at the data, the role of the permanent or non-permanent members has been very, very crucial, particularly in pushing for independent investigators in cases of conflicts, particularly in this case in Russia or Ukraine as an example, or in Sudan. These members have been very, very active in holding the big powers accountable for their actions. The Russian-Algerian position are so similar on many levels. That alliance should actually be also very influential at the Security Council, and hopefully, as we have seen, could lead to some major results in international resolving some of the conflict or preempted de-escalating conflicts that exist, particularly in Sudan, Nigeria, and other places.
Great indeed. And Dr. Abdenour Tomi, Russia has a growing interest in Africa, just like Dr. Ahmed Salhi was just saying, what is this interest, or how is this interest actually reflected on the ground? I mean, by trying to strengthen its presence in the coming years, and Algeria being a key country on the continent, how can coordination between the two countries, Russia and Algeria, that is, be done in promoting bilateral cooperation on the one hand, and serving the interest of the African continent on the other?
And this dynamic goes in to strengthen the cooperation between the two countries. On one hand, a superpower that has its sphere of influence that go back to the Soviet Union era, and Russia today, I mean, influence and presence in the African continent, it's not a surprise or new. It is, I mean, it has its roots that, again, as I stated, goes back to the era of the Cold War and also in the global foreign policy of then the Soviet Union. But what is happening now, Algeria now has positioned itself as a stabilizing force in the region, and notably in the African Sahel. And that, as Professor Salhi stated, I mean, it is important now. The war, the two generals' war in Sudan has already ramifications in North African countries, and notably Libya, and Egypt, and Algeria. So Russia can play a role on this sense in terms to as stabilizing force with Algeria on one hand, and also could push for the on the cooperation level on the economics and technology and so on. So, and on the other hand, also bring Algeria to have this independence in terms of its movement, and knowing that Algeria has this, again, that goes to its main core of its foreign policy for not being, doesn't interfere in interior politics of the neighboring countries, and it extends to other countries in the continent. So Algeria today has this opportunity to lead with the help of Russia, for instance, and also Algeria has succeeded to some extent by having this diversification paradigm, which, like the Professor Gharib mentioned, for having this independence and having a good relations with the West and with the East. I mean by that, so it can have a say toward Russia and also have, I mean, good position toward the West, and has good relations with Washington, even though, I mean, there are, like Professor Salhi mentioned, and I know what he meant by that, because there are some senators in the U.S. Senate. I mean, that goes, in politics and what happened in Washington, D.C., with some lobbyists who are pushing the senators to pressure Algeria or to pull back Algeria from Moscow, which is not an easy game. So to sum up all this, Algeria again is in an envoy position that to position itself in a posture of a stabilizing force, and again force in the to solve conflicts, from starting with Mali and then going to the what's happening in Burkina Faso and Central Africa. I mean, naming these three countries because we already, heard there are some noises here in France, in the French media, by the role of Russia in these three countries, and how, for instance, Mali did, let's say, divorce itself from Paris, which is putting Paris in a panic mood. So both countries now, Russia and Algeria, can play this role to, first of all, to stabilizing forces, to stabilize the region, and also lead some like development programs for the African Sahel and go beyond and for the entire continent.
That was at the political level, but I would like to shed more light on the economic aspect here, if you allow me, Dr. Abdenour. To me, Mr. Shuaib Boutamin, let's talk about the economic aspect. By strengthening relations between Algeria and Russia, perhaps, of course, evidently there is some kind of benefit for the two parties. But then how would this serve the continent, okay, in general? And how will Russia and Algeria help each other and back each other up when it comes to economy?
Yeah, very good question. There's something, one point I want to highlight now. Algerian president today just declared that the Algerian export out of, in 2022, out of land gas energy were $7 billion. The target for 2023 will be $13 billion. And I believe Algerian president declared this in Moscow. It's a message to the Russian companies, inviting them indirectly to take a share of this $13 billion. And I think we need to deepen a strategic relationship with Russia. One thing also I want to highlight is Algeria and Russia, we share the same vision in kind of energy. So let me tell you something. The Occident at the moment, leading by the G7, they put a target by 2050 to reduce the CO2 emissions to zero. And as you know, both Algeria and Russia produce and export oil and gas. It means that we are going to the energy transition. If we talk about the energy transition, it means that we are going from the fossils to the green energy, to sustainable energies. By the way, by 10 years, maybe more, a little bit, we will not need too much oil, the one we need, the barrels we need today. So what does it mean, energy transition? It means that we will go to generate electricity, to replace the oil by electricity. It means EV, replace them electric cars and all electric vehicles. It means that we need more minerals to generate electricity and to put them in the batteries. And both Algeria and Russia, they share a very big volume of minerals, of copper, of lithium, of manganese. All these components, and iron, all these components enter in the energy transition, on the component of energy transition. I think this is something very important Algeria and Russia have to work on. And as you know, Algeria is working at the moment to develop the iron mines in Gharj Bilat in Tindouf. And Russia is one of the leading countries, manufacturing countries of iron in the world. And we can take profit of the technology available in Russia to develop our mines in this separation. I believe Algeria, with its major role in North Africa, major role in African Union, and with its very close distance to Europe, could be a very good destiny, very good gate for Europe, for Russian investors to come to Algeria, because they have very advanced technologies. In my professional career, I was working in the oil and gas for many years at the moment, and I was working with very sophisticated advanced technology coming from Russia. So the Russian technology, I believe, I witnessed as an engineer, I was using it for many years. They have advanced technology in the oil and gas, in the services. We need, and I have seen the Algerian Minister of Energy is with the delegation, with the Algerian president there. I think that we need to invite the Russian companies activating in energy sector to come to invest in Algeria, and we take advantage of what they have. Let me tell you something. Russia is producing more than 9.7 million barrels of oil per day. Algeria is roughly 1 million. So Russia is producing almost 10 times what the Algeria has. So it means they have a very good expertise. They have very large scale refineries. So we need to develop the refineries business. We need to work on it. And they think Russia and Algeria, they have all the time for decades, they had very strong relationship. So this is something strange I don't understand in Algerian-Russian relationship. In general, if you don't have a good political relationship, you cannot develop or you cannot ramp up the economical relationship. But what I see with Russia all the time for decades, we have an excellent relationship, political relationship, but I see that the economical relations are a little bit poor.
And that's what will perhaps be prevail,
That's why,
will be revealed during, let's say, the forum. And here I would like to shed some more light about what happened earlier regarding the president's activity. Speaking at the conference during the Algerian-Russian Economic Forum meeting with the participation of 70 Algerian economic partners and 200 Russian businessmen, President Abdelmajid Tebboune said that Algeria initiated a multi-dimensional economic recovery program aimed at encouraging investment. Let's follow the report signed by Miriam Zian and then we get back to the debate.
More than 6 decades of historic relations and economic partnerships tie Algiers with Moscow. These relations have constantly been strengthened through an active dialogue between the two countries. The latest being the ongoing 3-day visit of the President of the Republic to the Russian Federation. As part of his visit, the President Abdelmajid Tebboune chaired in Moscow the Algerian-Russian Economic Forum meeting with the participation of 70 Algerian economic partners and 200 Russian businessmen. Speaking at the conference, the President said Algeria has embarked on a multi-dimensional economic recovery program aimed at encouraging investments.
مراجعة المنظومة القانونية المؤطرة للاستثمار بغية توفير بيئة أعمال ملائمة حيث تم إصدار القانون الجديد للاستثمار وتبسيط الإجراءات لتشجيع الاستثمار وتسريع مفهوم المقاولاتية وإنشاء المؤسسات الصغيرة والناشئة وتكريس التوجه نحو التحول التكنولوجي والرقمنة والاقتصاد المعرفة.
The head of state emphasized the opportunities to explore economic integration and to implement a new investment plan.
إن أمامكم فرص حقيقية لاستكشاف إمكانيات التكامل الاقتصادي في العديد من المجالات، خاصة وأن الجزائر مقدمة على تنفيذ خطة استثمارية في السنوات المقبلة في مجالات الطاقة والبنى التحتية والفلاحة والمنتجات الصيدلانية والصناعة الغذائية والتحويلية. اليوم الجزائر فيه نهضة اقتصادية تمشي بوتيرة سريعة جدا تداركا لما فاتنا من وقت وما فاتنا من فرص استثمار وتبادل استثماري مع أصدقائنا ومع إفريقيا ومع البحر الأبيض المتوسط. ولذا فحاليا فيه ما يقارب 1450 مشروع صناعي في قيد الإنجاز.
He also highlighted working at a sustained pace to encourage investment outside hydrocarbons.
واليوم تقرر من خلال السياسة الجديدة للجزائر أن نتحرر نهائيا من المحروقات. تبقى المحروقات مورد مالي يعني نستعين به في التنمية ولكن مش الأساس. وعلى هذا الأساس لسنة 2021 بدينا في العملية هذه وقررنا أن الصادرات الجزائرية ستكون في مستوى 7 ملايير دولار آنذاك. قد يبدو الرقم قليل أو ضعيف ولكن بالنسبة للماضي فهو معجزة ونطمح في هذه السنة هذه سنة 2023 إلى 13 مليار دولار، وتكون العجلة قد انطلقت.
The two friendly countries' relations are reflected by the military cooperation, energy agreement, commercial exchanges, and convergence of views on regional issues. Still, they need to be maintained.
We care about maintaining our cooperation and relations, and we also care to follow what our ancestors started to do, those who worked to deepen this cooperation. We aim to reach an accuracy in project implementation and their full realization, particularly those projects that link our two countries in a deeper way.
During the forum, the parties explored partnership in various fields, including agriculture, aviation, transport, and trade in the national currencies. Relations between Algeria and Russia have been marked by decades of continuous cooperation, mutual trust, and strategic partnership, and are witnessing a new impetus.
The Algerian president opened the Algerian-Russian Business Forum, and today he will participate in the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. How can we read the presence of the remarkable economic file in the agenda of President Tebboun's visit to Russia? Dr. Hamoud Saleh.
It's very interesting, and it comes all through in Miriam's report, in particular presenting a vision for Algeria. And we've seen this now common with President Tebboune. We've seen it very, very clearly when Macron visited Algeria, and President Tebboune from the start outline how he views Algeria-French relationship with in mind concrete steps to do this. We see this in this speech, particularly by setting a bar, for example, to saying that we have a goal to achieve $13 billion of trade by this year. And that's an ambitious goal, but we want us to drive to that goal. He specifically is referring, telling the Russian, this is the door is wide open. We are committed to improving our exports, our relationship beyond the energy sector. In addition, he's also talking this speech, which I didn't see in the report, about the challenges that faces the Algerian system. He shifted right from where he talks about the opportunities in Algeria, the new laws, the good environment or the solid environment for investment, but he also comes back and talks about the bureaucratic and administrative challenges. He's referring to this as a warning. Look, there are going to be challenges, but we are both a state system, centralized systems, so expect that to happen, but we are aware of it, and we are going to do all we can, meaning that he's very realistic, and he's setting goals very, very, very clear. And then the best one is that when he says, $7 billion may not be high for some or low for some, but this is in relation to that. All this suggests there are some very, very important, I think the details, it will be very, very important to see how the report comes. But there are areas that are very important to Algeria. For example, President Tebboune just recently, during this time of the baccalaureate, he comes out and says we should not close the internet during the exams, which is really, it's a serious problem for a nation like Algeria to have that problem during the exams. But, what he's saying also, we are opening, one of his purpose of this visit is technology and the digitalization of those. Those are important, but there is an equally important thing that Algeria is very much concerned, and the whole world is very much concerned, is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can play a very, very good role, a very important role in a lot of areas, but we are also in the United States concerned about some of the problems that might come with that. But it's an area that I could see, and I would love to see the final report. How is the technology, what areas of technology we're looking at it? We get it. The pharmaceutical areas is also very, very, very important. Remember, Algeria had, this huge deal with the Russians to establish sort of cure for COVID and be exported. So you have a strong foundation for a strong relationship. And the vision that the Algerians seems to have, and President Tebboune outlines very clearly, it's also not just Algeria, but it's Africa. And that comes also with the role, with the responsibility that the Algerians are taking, being a non-permanent member, representing the African continent. So there are a lot of subtle things in this, in President Tebboune's speech, but all pragmatical and very sort of right to the point, in line with what Algeria needs and how to go about them. Also aware of the challenges that we face. I mean, just talking about the bureaucracy and administrative things, that's really an admission of the challenges that may come ahead. Yeah.
Exactly. And Dr. Abdelnour Toumi, Algerian president, called on the businessmen of the two countries to explore the economic opportunities offered by the two countries during the inauguration of the business forum between Algeria and Russia. He made a presentation about the efforts by Algeria to open the door to investment. But how will this constitute a push for economic companies, especially in the agricultural field on which Algeria relies heavily?
It is indeed, and it was a strong message from the president. And we know well President Tebboune, he focuses a lot on the economic aspect, and to some extent, even during his the campaign, when he was campaigning for election in 2019, he put the paradigm of economic diplomacy, and he insisted a lot on this aspect by launching a new dynamic that abroad, that the diplomats, Algerian diplomats abroad, need to focus on these sensitive aspects that the new Algeria needs to have. And this is why he is, and we saw that at every speech abroad, he mentions or he focuses on the economic aspect, because he knows well the country needs this. As far as the foreign investors, let's say, attraction goes, it is indeed, it's all about the bureaucracy and the flexibility of the national laws toward the investors that will encourage foreign investors to come in and invest in Algeria. And we saw this already. I mean, this kind of business has already started with Turkey, and we saw that during President Tebboune's visit to Turkey last year, and that the let's say the historic rapprochement between Algiers and Ankara focuses on the economic aspect, so that this one also it is enhancing the long-standing friendship between Russia and Algeria, and all will be actually the cement of this will be focused on the economic aspect and cooperation, and for instance on agriculture and industry. I mean, beyond the military cooperation, because now President Tebboune knows well that the youth is hungry for change and also for prosperity. So this global policy or diversification policy goes toward that direction.
Absolutely. And here I would like to shed more light on President Tebboune saying that Algeria wants to be completely liberated from hydrocarbons, and also talked about the investment plan in energy, agriculture and food industries. How can these incentives actually attract more Russian investment here, Mr. Chouaib Boutamin? And how realistic is it to actually drive away from energy completely?
It's a big challenge, I believe. And first of all, I think we need to soften some regulations to attract the investors. And the big issue, I think, I have been dealing with some investors who were willing to invest in Algeria. And the big problem we had here is the difference in currency between the official rates and the block markets. This is, I believe, the government has to take this into consideration. And as the president was talking several times that we'll have time to manage that, but I believe it's a priority because the range, the margin is very large between the official and the black market. So I think we have to solve this problem. This is a huge issue, I believe, we need to rise in the next, in the upcoming opportunities. The problem of, actually with Russia, I think, and Algeria, there is some pressure, I believe, from the Occident. And now, for several months, we didn't see so many presidents who visited Russia. We have seen the president of China, I think of Turkey, but actually Abdelmajid Tebboune. So this visit comes in a very critical circumstances and under pressure from the European countries by imposing sanctions, many sets of sanctions on Russia. So I think this is a critical time. Algeria has to to manage this relationship in a smart way. A smart way by developing the economic relationship. The economic relationship, I think, with Russia has to be built on how to attract the investors. So we need to show the available opportunities in Algeria. So,
and how is the bilateral relations, especially at the energy level, actually is going to contribute in stabilizing at least a global market in oil here and the interest of producing countries?
Exactly. Russia is a meticulous active member in the OPEC Plus. As you know, before we had OPEC, the OPEC, and actually we have OPEC Plus with Russia. So before, we had participating, the OPEC was participating 30% of the global oil market. Actually, adding Russia, we have 40%. So the OPEC Plus now is weighing heavily in the global market. I think that both countries are working tirelessly with all OPEC members to stabilize the prices, I think. And there is something very important I want to shed the light on. Many countries at the moment, they are criticizing the opinion, the decisions of the OPEC Plus, why it's all time trying to cut the production. As you know, the OPEC Plus never was so compromising, taking compromising decisions as it is at the moment. If you see in the last 6 months, we have seen 2 major decisions have been taken by the OPEC Plus. In the last October, the OPEC Plus decided to cut production by 2 million barrels. Last April, Russia voluntarily decided to cut 500,000 barrels. And with the members of the OPEC became 1.6 million barrels. So actually, we have a cut of 3.6 million barrels of oil per day. This is a huge achievement, has been done in 6 months, which was not possible without Russia. So there is very tight cooperation at the moment. And there is the system, I think that the world now has to accept that the world now needs a multipolar system. The multipolar system now, we start to smell it from the OPEC Plus. Before, it was very tight, very hard to take decision to cut production. Saudi Arabia was not easy for it to take decision. Actually, Saudi Arabia in the last meeting took decision to cut voluntary, cut production 1 million barrels per day just for the month of July, and just to test the market how it will react. So Saudi Arabia, we all say that Saudi Arabia has very tight relations with the United States, but it's opening a very good channel also with Russia. And Saudi Arabia and Algeria are now they want to adhere to the BRICS. As you know, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, and the BRICS. This is very important.
And
this is
speaking of the BRICS, I will give you the final word later. I would like to include Dr. Abdel Noor Toumi and Hamoud Salhi. Let me begin with you, Hamoud Salhi. Talking about the BRICS, it is another file that is related to Algeria's desire to join the BRICS group. How do you actually see the relations with Moscow serve in the file of Algeria's accession to the new economic group?
So the Russians have been very clear. I mean, they are strongly supportive of the Algerian case. They even some of their officials say we will support Algeria fully, either as a full member or as an observer member. And so this is not unquestionable. The other thing is that really this is, as much as you look at this relationship, and again, is what is coming up in the report, but there are so many layers that are sort of connected to the strategic relationship that could translate in establishing a major alliance either within the BRICS, the Security Council, or on the African continent. Remember that the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, as many of our guests today talked about, have a historical, traditional relationship with Algeria. It goes back, supporting Algeria on all levels. Algeria and the former Soviet Union and Russia, nothing has changed much, have similar positions in international politics. They aligned on all issues, alignment and so on and so forth. So the BRICS, the emphasis of the independence of this movement, the emphasis of national currency, all of that is connected to this. And then, there is with BRICS, there are threats to this BRICS, the cybersecurity threats today. Algeria has made it a point because of the special relationship that it has with Russia, particularly when it comes to the strategic military security areas, has relied on the technologies of the Russian. This is a trust in fighting cyber security war. This is an example of the trust that the Algerian leadership and the Russians have in each other, sharing this kind of sensitive sort of information. So that translates into a stronger relationship in the BRICS. And once that sort of came out, and Algeria being either a full member or non-member or an observer member, this partnership is in that direction. It adds value to Algeria's membership, and as we know, all members of the BRICS are endorsing Algeria's full membership in the bloc.
Very nice. And what about you, Dr. Abdel Noor Toumi? What will Algeria gain from joining the BRICS group, according to you? And what will the BRICS benefit from Algeria's accession?
Actually, symbolically, it is important for Algeria to join such an important economic and political and geopolitical groups. And actually for the BRICS, and I think Mr. Potamin knows better than me on this issue, is, the complex number in the equation of the BRICS is all about the growth. And this is what Algeria needs to do. So now for the role of the BRICS members, the current BRICS members, how they are, or how they look at Algeria, of course, they look at Algeria as a strategic position on in the north, on the Mediterranean, and also it's a 40 minutes flight from Europe. So it is east and west. So it is important for them, for the group, the BRICS as a group, to integrate Algeria, as Dr. Salhi stated, either as a full member or an observatory member in the process to join later or to get a full membership. But a long story short on this important issue of the BRICS, it is important for Algeria and for the BRICS member, because we know well, I mean, there are three major countries, Russia, China, and India, and of course, Brazil on Latin America, who are shaping the entire world order. And as we stated early in the show, we are heading into a multipolar and a new relation north-south.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And as we actually near the end of our program, I would like to give the final word to Shuaib Botamin. Just briefly, can we say that the economic cooperation between the two countries, Algeria and Russia, are actually below the level of ambitions? And what can we do in order to better this relation, especially with the help of the Algerian community abroad, since the president met them there?
Yeah, the cooperation, I think it's not really at its maximum level, so we need to work in it, we need to develop it, we need to explore, and we use all available skills we have, skilled workforce we have in Algeria, so we need to integrate this available potential. We use it to develop the country in cooperation with Russia, with the United States, with the European Union, so we need to work. We keep the same pace with all our partners. So Russia is one of our partners. So we need to develop this relationship. And I believe we have all available potential and we can reach our target. But just want to say that we need to work, we need to trust ourselves, and we can develop
our own technology, perhaps with the partnership of many of Algeria's friends. Thank you so much. And with this, our special coverage comes to an end. See you tomorrow, same channel, same time. Bye.